What is up, everyone, and welcome to the first ever AFC East Summit. Yes, we are going to start doing this show at least once a month. We're going to maybe do it every other week. It depends on what's happening in the AFC East. And we're going to try to have representatives from every team in the AFC East. Unfortunately for this show, some of the folks had to bail out. There were some things that came up, but we were able to get on contract Mr. Dominic Catafamo, representing the New York Jets. I've been trying to get him on this show with us for quite some time. He's a tough negotiator, wanted a lot of money in the contract, but we we inked it this morning. He's here. I'm not sure if he's going to be a regular. That's up to him. Would love to have him, but he's going to represent the Jets for us today, and he's got a beautiful helmet collection, and he's going to show some of those off as well. We are taking applications. If you are a New England Patriot or you are a Miami Dolphin, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're just a big fan, doesn't matter. Whether you're one of the big YouTubers, let us know. We would love to have you when we do these shows. Now, you might say, yeah, there's another show out there. It's called the AFC East Roundtable. Yes, love that show. Definitely want you guys to go watch that. But they're the big YouTubers. We can't get a seat at that table quite yet. So we're starting here. We're going to keep continuing to build our channels. And one day, maybe we'll get one of those big YouTubers to come over and join us on our show and vice versa. But joining me, as always, the gang. Sean, nobody cooler than Sean Kula from the Red, White, and Bills. Sean, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And then also from the Go Bills podcast, the young gun, Brett McDurphy. How you doing, Brett?
I am doing great, guys. I'm so glad to be with you, and welcome, Dominic, to the show. Glad to have you. And I'm ready for the draft, guys. It's coming up so fast. We got 4 more days before the draft. Can't wait to go live with all of you guys. And then, Dominic, after the draft, if you want to talk a little bit about the Jets and how the changes are going to happen in the AFC East with the draft picks that are going to come in, we'd love to have you, buddy.
Count me in.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, Mr. Jake Podger from Nickel City Mafia. He's had a couple, I don't say a couple, he's had a rough week, been traveling all over the place, been going to other countries. Of course, he's only 20 minutes away from Canada, but he was in Canada last night. He's back. And Jake, how you doing, my friend?
I'm back, baby. Fired up, Mike. My voice still hasn't fully recovered. In fact, I think I made it a little bit worse, but I'm going to power through it, and excited to be here with you guys. Dominic, love that you came in here strong. You got the JETS, Jets, right on your username, which is phenomenal. You're bringing the electricity, and I hope you put on for the Jets fans tonight because
for sure, appreciate that.
I think there's a lot of good things you guys have done in the offseason, and I think there's just a very big question mark on what the heck's going to happen with the whole trade situation with A-Rod, or if you guys are going to roll with Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that. So first of all, let me introduce Dominic here. Dominic and I known each other for 5 years. We worked together. He is a long-time Marine. He's not a Marine any longer, but he served for a very long time. So thank you for your service, Dominic.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You wouldn't know it. Dominic's just got a great personality. I mean, he's a sales guy now. Can you imagine being a Marine? When you think of a Marine, you think of a guy you don't want to mess with, you don't want to talk to. Just a real badass. This guy, super great salesman. and just love the guy. So Dominic, first of all, why don't you show us, a couple months ago, I had the luxury of taking my son, my 10-year-old, over to your place, and you showed off your helmet collection. And why don't you show some of those great helmets that you have right now behind you? One of them, I think, is Joe Namath.
This is the only important one out of the 3 I'm going to show you.
That is beautiful, man. That is beautiful. How many helmets do you have in total, Dominic, right now?
51, I think,
in
total.
Oh, wow. My goodness.
Give or take. I actually just got rid of probably 6 or 7 in the last 2 weeks. Kind of going in a different direction, but I know you guys will like this one.
So this is Josh Allen Salute to Service, right?
Correct. So this is all custom painted. There's a guy in Utah who does it. He's done all my customs for me since I started in the hobby like 2 years ago collecting. But he does them all. He did incredible job.
Well, it's good to know. Besides, you have some good taste, right? Other than being a Jets fan, I love that you do have some of the Buffalo Bills
I knew the
memorabilia.
shit was gonna get thrown at me. I should have been prepared better. Should have been prepared better.
We're
And
good. We're
then
good. We
this
respect
one
you.
is just completely different, but it's Barry Sanders. It's called the Rip Chrome. This is also custom done.
Nice.
I know you can't because of the reflection. I know you can't see like the actual, logo on it for the cowboy and the lines on that side.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. That helmet behind me, you can't see it's in the distance. That's a Thurman Thomas signed Buffalo Bills actual helmet, and that was donated to me by Dominic right here. So appreciate that.
Definitely, for sure.
So Dominic, let's get into it, man. Let's start. First of all, I would love to hear your story. Why the Jets, man? How did you become a Jets fan?
So for those of you who don't know, I actually grew up in New York. I'm originally from Albany, so spent quite a bit of time there, and then joined the Marine Corps, and then haven't lived there in 29, almost 30 years. So, but I originally was a Bills fan back in the day until they had that little 4-year fiasco, we'll call it. So ever since I got fed up and jumped ship, and then stuck with the Jets because I didn't want to be a bandwagon fan or bandwagon jumper. So switched over to the Jets and stayed ever since.
So all the teams you could have jumped ship for, you decided to stay within New York. Although they're not truly a New York team, their name's
Correct.
New York, but they play is why the Jets though?
Truth, there are very few Jets fans. If you ask people, like I've ran across maybe a handful here and there, but it's usually the Patriots or even the Giants fans across the board, and then obviously the Bills fans too. But for the most part, I wanted to be different. I wanted to stick with that gang green, so kept staying with them, and I mean, at least they won a Super Bowl. So,
Before you were a fan, though. Before you were a fan.
Yeah, before I was a fan. Before I was a fan. So.
All right. Well, let's get into it. First of all, I'd love to hear your rankings in the AFC. So let's start at top to bottom. Who do you have at number 1, 2, 3, and 4? And that is if right now, Dominic, I want you to tell me those rankings if the season was to start right now. Not what happens in the draft, not what happens if Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to talk about that. But let's say the season was to start right now. Give us your AFC East rankings.
If they were to start right now, I would say, man, I'm kind of worried about Miami. I probably would put Miami number 1 or number 2 with the Bills, either 1 or 2, vice versa, depending on how. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. I really do like Josh Allen. I think he's incredible. It's a tough tie for 1, tie for 2 type of thing. Patriots always are going to be number 4, regardless of how well or how good they think. I despise New England, so that's a different issue. So, but I put the Jets at 3, and then I'll say Miami 2, Buffalo 1.
All right, interesting there. Do we have a Patriot fan in the channel right now?
We're going to try to get this young man or woman on the show. I'm assuming it says Mr. So I think we need you. I mean, come on down here. I think you got to join the summit. If you're interested and you're brave enough, I want you to show out for your Patriots here.
Hey, we can get them on right now if they're truly interested.
Yeah, if you're truly interested, Mr. Antoine, come on up.
But let us know for sure. We like I said,
I want to know why he thinks the Patriots are 1, because it's going to take a lot of convincing. You guys have been number 1 for about the last 20 years prior to 2021. But I think, obviously there's a little bit of a changing of the guard. I'm not saying the Patriots are a bad team either. I still think the AFC East is loaded with talent. But I'm in agreement here, Dom. I think number 4 regardless.
Yeah.
I agree.
I want to give you some opening odds from Vegas real quick on the AFC East as far as the win totals, and then Dominic, I want to talk to you about the possibility that you get Aaron Rodgers and how that might change your rankings, if at all. Obviously, right now you said Buffalo 1A, 1B with the whatever interchangeable with Miami. You got yourself at number 3, and then you got New England at number 4. But right now, the win totals from Vegas early on has the over/under on the Jets at 9.5. So they have them improving by at least 2 to 3 games from last year. They have the Bills at 10.5. They also have Miami at 9.5. And then they have the Patriots. Let's see if I can find them real quick here. The Patriots, there they are right there. They have them at 7.5. So they have them falling back from last year. So pretty interesting. And so let me ask you this. The big rumor out there, right? Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. We've been hearing about this, I don't know, for months now. First of all, is it going to happen? And second of all, how does that change your rankings if that does happen?
To be honest, I actually probably would have preferred Derek Carr, but that's a different issue. I've never been a fan of Aaron Rodgers, period. I'm just the whole like pretentious attitude kind of just irks me a little bit. But I actually probably would put the Jets at number 2, and then I would actually put Buffalo at 1, and then put Miami at like a 2A, 2B, but typical Miami or New England's still going to be number 4 regardless. And I don't think that's ever going to change unless Tom Brady goes back to the Patriots. And then even then I'll put him at 3, not even at number 1, but that's because I'm a little biased and haterade-ish, but that's a whole different topic in itself. So the catch is that from everything that I've read, everything that I know, they were talking about sending 3 picks over to the Packers for him, which is why they traded Elijah Moore over to the Browns to pick up number 43, I think. Yeah, pick 43 in round 2. And I believe they sent that over as a package already with those 3 draft picks at 13, 42, and 43. So I think definitely improves by far. I'm still a little weary of Miami. I think that Mike White was a great addition for the Dolphins. I kind of wish the Jets wouldn't have released him or traded him for that matter. But for the most part, I think the Jets odds definitely improve, putting them at the 2A, 2B spot, kind of even with Miami. But I think if that's the case, I still think Buffalo would overtake it, because I think with the Jets will beat Miami both times, and I think the Bills will as well. So it's going to push Miami down in the rankings by far.
Wow, interesting. So let me throw it to Sean. Sean, I want you to kind of start with your rankings. Of course, there's 4 Bills fans on this channel, and since we only have one representative from one of the other teams, so we're going to try to be as unbiased as we can. Some of us, but Sean, let me throw it to you. You do work a lot with the Dolphin folks. I know you've been on some of the bigger YouTube channels with them, Miss Fins, TD Fins, Nando. Love all 3 of them and love all 3 of their shows. And you've been on there and you've had a lot of support from the Dolphins fans. So get into their head a little bit. First of all, give us your AFC East rankings as they stand right now if the season was to start. And then talk to us what you think those Dolphin fans are thinking. Get in their heads a little bit.
Well, for the rankings, I got to agree it's going to be Patriots or 4th no matter what. But between the Bills, Jets, and the Dolphins, I think by the end of it, it's going to be within a game and a half for all 3 of them. So it'll be down to the last week or 2 of the season. I still imagine Buffalo being number 1 and then interchange basically any 3 of them for 2 and 3, just because it's going to be so close. The Jets defense is great. Dolphins defense got even better. Again, the rivalries are all back, so all the games are going to be tough anyway. And people think the Bills window is closed, but everyone's got to remember we had a bad year and won 13 games. And when I say we had a bad year, it sounds kind of silly, but if you watch how we played the last 9 weeks, I came on here every week and said, it's not about winning, it's about how you win. We didn't deserve to win that game. We played like crap and we still won. So we were able to, after all the adversity we went through last year, still win 13 games. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I think for like 3 months I wasn't even happy. It was just like you guys were the ones that were positive. I was just like, I don't care. It was a bad win, and it seems like we're going downhill now. But just have to keep that in mind. We didn't have a great year last year. We still managed to win 13 games and should have been a 1 seed. But as far as the Dolphins go, they're in complete win now mode. Chris Greer, he's basically like, this is my last shot, so I'm going to exhaust every option I have. go get a Jalen Ramsey. We got a Bradley Chubb. Talks about Dalvin Cook, even Derrick Henry. And, like Dominic said, they're going to be a pretty scary team. And again, it all depends on, is Tua going to remain healthy? He hasn't played a whole season yet. And I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback, but with the weapons around him, if they draft an offensive tackle, because they still struggle at right tackle and left guard, if they fix those positions, and again, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Jalen Waddle, Tua can just have top 5 stats, even if he's not a top 5 quarterback. So that's what the Dolphins are doing. They're ready to win now. They see how the AFC is. You got the Bengals, you got the Jags. They're getting Calvin Ridley next year. The Jets have a great defense. Mike, Aaron Rodgers. You got us. You got the Chargers, who are always good on paper. The Bengals, the Chiefs. So you have to win. You have to be built to win now, because even when you're really good, the odds of you winning in the AFC are very slim now. But AFC East is going to be probably the best division. Probably next to the AFC West to be the top 2 divisions. So it'll be interesting. And as far as the win totals go, I think the Chiefs were the highest one with 11.5. But you got to remember who we play. We play the AFC East already twice, AFC West, the Bengals, and then NFC East. And I think our only guaranteed win we might have is the Bucs. And other than that, every game is difficult. So it's going to be a tough. 10 wins might win a division this year.
Yeah, Sean, you bring up a good point. I mean, the whole AFC East has the hardest strength of schedule right now. If you were to look at the schedule, they are within the top 5, all of them, of having the hardest strength of schedule this year. So it's going to be extremely difficult, like you said, and they're going to be beaten up on one another. Jake, let me go to you real quick and kind of share your thoughts on the rankings within the AFC. And since we have a Jet representative, do you agree with Dominic, what he's saying as far as the Jets go?
Yeah, I think the Jets have done some really good things. I mean, you got Breece Hall that's going to be returning this year, hopefully. They did replace Elijah Moore with Mecole Hardman, and I think that right there is almost a wash. I mean, Mecole Hardman did a lot of good things with the Chiefs, so basically the same type of player, a gadget guy. He's still very young into his career, so that was a very underrated signing, in my opinion. You still have Corey Davis. You still have Garrett Wilson, who's coming off a tremendous rookie year. I'm not sold on Zach Wilson just yet, but I do see where you're coming from with the aspect of, hey, give him a third year. He's been banged up. He said some kind of crappy things, within the media. They punished him a little bit. Maybe it was a good learning moment for him. He was drafted number 2 overall for a reason, and maybe this is the year he finally gets things right. But if it's not this year, they have to move on. You talk about Aaron Rodgers and how much better he makes the team. I think from a stability aspect, what you're going to get. And given the weapons that he'll have around him, I think it's a better situation for him, which gives the Jets a better chance of winning. But he didn't play really great football last year, to be honest with you. I mean, he's kind of on his last leg here. Obviously he'll have much better weapons in New York, but one of the key pieces in New York that's really struggled over the last few seasons is the offensive line. And you saw how the Packers offensive line managed this year. They did a terrible job of protecting A-Rod. He was rushed. He didn't have the weapons. He had a lot of drop passes too. So when you combine all that together, it's just not great. He's also not as mobile as he used to be. So Zach Wilson, a lot more mobile. He can make things happen with his legs. A little similar to Josh Allen in that aspect, not in terms of physicality, but he is very mobile. He can get outside the pocket and, take it 10 to 20 yards if he needs to. So I see where you're coming from with that, Dom. I think you guys have a lot of good pieces. You have a lot of good things going on, a lot of young talent, but you need a couple more things to go your way. I think the acquisition of that 43rd pick, obviously it could be used as trade bait, or you could really bolster up that offensive line, help them out a little bit, get Zach Wilson, maybe another weapon or two. You can help him out. You can go a lot of different directions. I am all for staying younger. And I hear you guys when you say you don't want to play A-Rod, but we played him last year. Was he that much of a threat? I mean, the Bills kind of dropped that second half themselves. It wasn't so much Aaron Rodgers being such a game changer and, turning things around. I think it was the Bills mainly just kind of being lackadaisical and getting too comfortable and letting them come back and, almost, make that a closer game than it should have been. But in my opinion, too, when you look on paper, talking about the Dolphins, I mean, I think on paper, they probably look like the best team in the AFC across the board. However, all all other 3 teams in the AFC East besides the Bills, you're missing JA-17. JA-17 is the ultimate game changer. That guy can take over a game at any moment. And did our offense really get any worse this year? I mean, who do we lose? We lost Devin Singletary. I mean, I don't think we got any worse. I think actually we've probably improved, if anything, a little bit. I know it's not the big name players that you expect. We're pretty stagnant on the offensive line. We're replacing, Roger Saffold, who had a terrible year, with Connor McGovern. And then you got the right tackle, Spencer Brown, obviously a huge question mark. Is he the answer there? I don't think he is. Obviously, I think he's a very good heavy package guy. But I don't think the Bills' offense has gotten any worse, and that was really the key struggle that we had against the Bengals. But on paper, I'm going to give it to the Dolphins as number 1. But I think in terms of realistically where we are, no one has Josh Allen, and that's why the Bills are still the number 1 team in the AFC East. And I'm sorry, guys. My voice is dying on me. I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, get some water. I hope you have some water nearby or something to drink. There you go. All right, Brett, you've been super quiet. I'm sorry to have you wait this long, but let's get your thoughts on what's been being said about the rankings within the AFC East, and then I'll give you my thoughts as well. So as far as the rankings go, what Dom's been talking about, what Jake and Sean have said, do you agree? Do you disagree? Go ahead and talk to us about that.
Yeah, I agree completely with the rankings overall of the number 4 being the Patriots right now. I just don't think of all the quarterbacks that are in the AFC East, I believe that Mac Jones is the biggest question mark this year. Now, having an offensive coordinator come in for the Patriots and Bill O'Brien, I think is a big step forward. I just want to see what next steps that Mac Jones can make. And then number 3, I have the Jets. Just a big question mark, especially with not acquiring Aaron Rodgers already and having Zach Wilson. That's a big question mark for me. But I love the defense that they have. The biggest question mark also for me is, can the offensive line for the Jets stay healthy? And then it comes down to the receivers too. I really love Garrett Wilson, but who's going to be that number 2 beside him, and who's going to step up? That's another question mark for me. They also lost Braxton Berrios. That's another player that is a very good slot receiver that left the division, or went inside the division and signed with the Miami Dolphins as well. So that's a big question mark for me. Then you add in Mekhi Becton. Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to be able to be the right tackle? He's going to be switching over from left tackle to right tackle. Is that going to be something that he can do, or is he going to struggle in that position? And then it comes down to the Miami Dolphins, who have made some really good moves, but can they contain all these superstars on their roster, and can they have the team chemistry like the Buffalo Bills have right now? That's something that concerns me too. You have all these superstars like Bradley Chubb, you have Jalen Ramsey, you have Xavier Howard, even Tyreek Hill. There's a bunch of names out there on the Miami Dolphins, and it's a great team on paper. But can they put it together throughout the whole entire season, and can they play together and become one? That's one thing that they haven't shown. So I have them at 2. But the Buffalo Bills, for me, are at number 1 because, number 1, they played together for 6 years pretty much throughout every single player besides whoever's going to play at the middle linebacker position, which is one of the bigger question marks for me. But you add in A.J. Klein, who has so much experience for the Buffalo Bills. He was also with the Carolina Panthers, so he has that consistency within the Sean McDermott system. Another concern of mine is the right side of the offensive line for the Bills. That's a big concern, and I know everybody on the panel here is questioning Spencer Brown. And while we're giving him another shot, I do think that there needs to be some more competition with him. And then at right guard, that concerns me as well. So I want to see what steps the Bills can take to get better as a team. And I also think we need another wide receiver. And whoever's going to be that player that can step up besides Stephon Diggs. I know that Gabe Davis has had a really good season last year overall, but I need to see more consistency from another wide receiver, somebody that can take the edge off of Stephon Diggs and take that double team off of him. Somebody that defenses have to fear. That's something that I haven't really seen for the Buffalo Bills. And once you take Stephon Diggs out of the game, you really only have to take Gabe Davis off the field, and then the Bills they start to crumble. So there needs to be that next player that can step up, whether it's a running back or whether it's a tight end or another wide receiver in the middle of the field. That's something that last year Buffalo really struggled with in the playoffs, and even the year before they struggled with. So I want to see the next player step up. So early on in the draft, possibly grabbing a wide receiver, or even in free agency, if there's somebody that becomes available that wants to be traded, I'd love to see that. And then it just comes down to, if the Jets trade for Aaron Rodgers, I would actually flip-flop the Jets and the Dolphins and have the Jets at number 2, because I love the team. I just think that they're a quarterback away from being a really good team in this division. Mike, you're muted.
Good stuff, Brett. So I agree with a lot of things you guys are saying. Again, I'm playing that unbiased Bills fan or Bills person today. So here's what I'm thinking. If I rank the defenses right now, I believe Miami has the best defense. I believe if the Jets are number 2, I believe the Bills are number 3, and then the Patriots are close number 4. I think they all have very, very good defenses. And like you said, Sean, Dolphins only got better on defense. They added linebacker. They added Ramsey, which we know about. They also added David Long from Tennessee, fantastic linebacker there. And they played the Bills. I mean, all 3 of those games last year, guys, were within 3 points. They literally had the chance with the ball at the end of that playoff game with a backup rookie quarterback. And if Tua or somebody else is more experienced in that game, I think we lose. You look at what happened the following week. We just got whooped by Cincinnati. But I'm going to put the Dolphins at number 1 right now. One reason, I like it when the Bills are the underdogs. They seem to do better. The big question mark, though, for me is if Tua can stay healthy. Have they done enough, or will they do enough in the draft? And they don't have many draft picks this year. Are they going to do enough to protect him? Because he's shown that he cannot stay healthy since he's been starting in the NFL. Last year, he missed a lot of time, and he's had some serious concussions. So if he's able to stay healthy, I think they could be the number 1 team, and I'm going to rank him number 1 right now. If he doesn't stay healthy, I do like the addition of Mike White. I think that was a great move getting him from the Jets. I don't know if they released him or trade. I want to say they probably didn't sign him, right? They didn't. That wasn't a trade. They didn't re-sign him. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't re-sign him.
So I think that was, like you said, a bad mistake by the Jets. I think Mike White brings something, because when Tua was out, man, they really struggled. They really struggled with their backup quarterbacks, and they had Bridgewater. I thought Bridgewater would do a fantastic job, because look, when you have that offense that Miami has, if you're any type of decent quarterback, I think you should do extremely well. And for some reason, that just didn't transfer. So again, it's a big question mark. Can Tua stay healthy? And Jake, you said it really well. The Bills, we didn't make many splash plays. Did we get better through free agency? You could argue maybe Deontay Hardy was a slight upgrade from McKenzie. I'm not sure if McGovern, that's yet to be played out. If he an upgrade from what we had over there on the offensive line? So it's going to come down to me. I could be swayed after the draft. I really could be. After what happens in the draft, I could flip-flop those 1 and 2. But that, for me, I'm going to put right now, going in, if the season was to start today, Miami 1, Buffalo 2, Jets 3, and Patriots 4. And I will say this. I agree with what both Jake and Dominic said. I don't think you should bring Rodgers over. You might only get a year out of this guy. It seems like every year he contemplates retiring for good, and all the drama that brings. And I look, your offensive lines, the reason that Zach Wilson has struggled is they've been just bad, right? And I don't care who comes behind that line. If you're not getting protection, and like Jake said, Rodgers is, this is the older Rodgers. He's, he doesn't escape like he used to. And I wouldn't do it. I would, like you guys said, I think, who was it? What were you saying, Jake, that there was being mocked to the Jets at number 13.
Peter
One of the-
Skoronski, and
Peter.
you have so much draft capital right
Yeah.
now. You can really use that for good. I mean, you guys can really help. I mean, at 43, you could maybe take Steve Avila or something like that, a guard / center. I mean, gosh, you could do so many things. Take Peter Skoronski in the first. I mean, you could really, really make that offensive line look good. And gosh, sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah,
I would prefer that.
Yeah. I think that's a better move, in my opinion. So let's see here. Anyone have any other thoughts before we get into some draft targets?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just wanted to take
Sure.
that segment with Aaron Rodgers and take it to the next level for you guys. I do agree with everybody I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the answer for the New York Jets. There's a ton of quarterbacks in this draft. Specifically, you can look at guys like Stetson Bennett or even Max Duggan, who are late round potential players. And I can use that word now. I'm so glad I can use it. It's not going to cost me $5. So there's so many players that you could grab later in the draft. And you can blossom them behind Zach Wilson for a year. And then you can have them come in next year, be the starting quarterback, and learn behind another veteran. So you guys are going to have some cap space next year as well, which I really love. And I believe that you're going to be a great team within the next year to 2 years if you just figure out the quarterback position and you build around what you have on the offensive line and defensive line. You just got to make some tweaks and just figure out some roster moves that can make the team better and stay healthy. That's the other thing.
Yeah, you can argue Zach Wilson just hasn't been given a fair shot with that offensive line that he's been having to run for his life, and he gets injured the past 2 years. I don't know how many games he's missed in total, but Jake, has he been given a fair shot? What's your thoughts there?
I don't know. I think he has. Obviously his comments. Yes and no. Yes and no. I think when he was given a chance to prove what he can do, his rookie year, honestly, I saw that dog in him that he claimed that he had, right? There were some moments there where he showed that he could be the guy. And, one thing after another happened. The offensive line is banged up. They didn't really do much to help him out there. Try to get him some weapons, obviously taking Garrett Wilson, which was huge. You got to give him a full season. Just let him play it out. He can't be making stupid comments. I know that was more of a thing on Robert Saleh, just saying, hey, you can't be saying stuff like that. Take accountability. There's a difference with how a pro acts and how you're acting right now. So he needs to take this year seriously. He's got to just hone in and let it, really show why he was the second overall pick in that draft. I saw so many good things from him his rookie year. If he could just channel that and utilize that this year, sky's the limit. Really, I really do believe that. I don't think he's that bad. I know a lot of people have decided to write him off, and people are ready to jump on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon, but just pump the brakes for a second here. You could do a lot in the draft and just give him a full year and just let him ride this out.
Yeah.
That game they beat us. Didn't he take them on like a 90+ yard drive to win that game?
Yeah.
Am I recalling that correct?
Yes, he did. Yes.
I thought that would be his breakout. I really did.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And again, once they lost Breece Hall, the running game, and I think it was a mistake. Was it James Robinson they had? They let him go as well.
Yeah.
Let him go to New England. I think that was a big mistake letting him go. But I don't know. Again, with no offensive line, it's pretty tough to do anything, be successful at anything. And nobody knows the offensive line better than Sean. So Sean, talk to me. Do you think, Zach Wilson has gotten a fair shake yet with that offensive line that's been in front of him?
Yeah, you mentioned like how he did against us. He's had more faults than good. The games that I've watched him play, he just seems like he lacks awareness and IQ. He's kind of just all over the place. He gets flustered quick, tries to do too much. Sounds a little bit like Josh when he was a rookie, but what's he going into year 3 now? And, I understand why Jet fans want to move on because, like we mentioned previously, you got a top 3 defense. You're built to win. You have a Super Bowl defense. And now you're getting all these offensive weapons. And to not trust, can Zach Wilson lead you to the promised land? I wouldn't trust him either. Because, again, now he has all that pressure even more now. He hasn't performed to what everyone expected as a second overall pick. And now they're like, okay, now you have to – because people say already now Jets are going to win a Super Bowl. Jets are winning a Super Bowl. So if they don't get Rodgers, because that's assuming Rodgers comes to New York. Then Zach Wilson has all that pressure. We have a great defense. We got all these weapons around me. If we don't at least win a couple playoff games, then New York's a hard place to play. Yankee players know the fans can run you out of there. So New York isn't an easy place to play for, and even though it's New Jersey. But I think he has gotten a fair shake, but he just hasn't made the most of it. And I think Saleh is correct to be looking for other options, because then you're just throwing him out there and you're expecting him to do something he hasn't done, and that's lead his team to the playoffs. And I mean, if I was a Jet fan, I'd be halfway. I mean, I'd want to give him another chance because he was a second overall pick, but then I want to win now too, because they're going to be built for it. And the offensive line will be healthy next year. Obviously starting out to be pretty healthy. I heard Becton's looking incredible. He's lost a lot more weight again, and he looks pretty good. Vera Tucker's going to come back, and he's their stud. And then if you stick with, the 13th overall pick, you can get another great lineman, and then there's no excuse. And then he has to perform. But me personally, I think that they mishandled him earlier in his career, and then he made mistakes, and it's going to be tough to come back from that.
Jake, is there a generational talent? Would they be bold enough? And Dom, you can chime in as well. What if they traded that 13th pick and took those 2 second rounders and moved up to get one of the quarterbacks? Is there a generational talent quarterback in this year's draft?
I'm not sold yet. I'm not totally convinced on that. I don't know. I think also taking a guy second overall only 2.5 years ago, to me, it just doesn't make sense. This is the guy that you're putting all your faith in. At least let it play out. I understand, you want to move on, but NFL stands not for long, of course. It stands for not for long. But second overall pick, man, hasn't had a full 17-game season yet. Let it happen. See what, ride it out this year. You have a great team. You should have enough to, at least get you to the playoffs. In my opinion, I think the top 3 teams in the AFC East are all playoff teams. Just based on the defenses alone, I mean, they can get there. And then you factor in a few more offensive weapons. I mean, the Dolphins have done so much, obviously, on offense still, to make their team even better. So, which I think the Jets also, I mean, they have some opportunity here with the offensive line. They're very close. So I think all teams in the AFC East are probably at least 8-win teams. I still think New England, they're very well coached. They still managed to go 8-9 last year. But the top 3 teams, I think they're all going to be 10-win teams. I really do. So with that being said, is there a generational talent that they should move up for? I don't think it's worth it, honestly, right now. Stay at 13, or I guess if you really do feel Aaron Rodgers is the answer, you could probably trade it away.
I agree with what Dom said, though, with Derek Carr. Derek Carr, people overlook him a lot, but the Raiders in his time have been bottom 5 defense every year that he's ever played. So you put a guy like Derek Carr in a defense like that. That's what I was hoping they didn't do, because then I would have been super afraid of the Jets. But I would have definitely
been a Hall of Famer.
Rodgers.
Yeah.
Rodgers is on his way out. He's slow. Derek Carr's great in a system, and even with the terrible defense and banged up offensive line, Waller was out all year. Renfro was hurt all year, and he gave Devontae his best career season, even when he was with Rodgers. What he had, like 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns or something crazy like that.
Yep.
And that's with a terrible coach and everything. So if I was a Jet fan, I would have rather had Derek Carr. I watched a lot of podcasts where Jet fans were like, "Oh, don't get Derek Carr. That's a stupid move." And honestly, it would have been the best move for them. And I would have liked to see Carr with a good defense. But I mean, when you think about why they want to move on from Zach Wilson, is all these contracts. You got Quinn Williams is going to get like $25 million a year, the best defensive tackle to ever play, even better than Aaron Donald at this point in time. And it's like, then you got Garrett Wilson.
Whoa.
And
did you just say that?
He is right
now.
It's just how it is. I'm telling you. Maybe not like obviously career to career, nothing right now, but give Quinn Williams a time. The Rams are always good. The Rams always had a great defensive line. Now the Jets are coming to form. Quinn Williams had 13 sacks last year, and he missed time. Give him some time. Give him some time.
He is
But-
a stud, but holy smokes,
but-
Sean,
That's
that's
a bold statement,
regardless,
even for me.
regardless if you agree or not, all these contracts are going to be having to be satisfied if they want to continue to be good. You're going to have to extend people sooner than you want because they're going to demand even more. So like Garrett Wilson's not going to be able to go out his whole rookie contract without getting extended. Sauce Gardner won't be able to go his whole rookie contract without getting extended. So they have to be thinking about that too. So they want to win now with that. They don't want to waste that defense away. So that's another reason why I think they'd rather go with Rodgers than Wilson. And then if they still believe in Wilson and they think Rodgers might play 1 year or 2 years and be done, then Wilson can learn from Rodgers, and then he has that last opportunity. Okay, now you have year 4 to give us to show us what you got, and at that point, then you're done. We're not gonna do the 5th-year option, and then you're just gonna go.
You know, there's another big name out there, Dom, and let me ask you this. You know, Lamar Jackson's looking for a deal. Why isn't he in the conversation? Younger guy, he's going to be around a lot longer than Rodgers is. What's your thoughts on that? And why do you think there's been no conversation with the Ravens and the Jets? They don't like each other? What's the deal?
Kind of a good question. I figured he would have been in the conversation in the first place, but from everything that I gathered, the Ravens want entirely too much, as does Lamar. Which, is he worth it? Is he not worth it? You know, he could be. I don't know if he really wants to play for Green. I think that with the same thing that I think Jake, you said it earlier, and Brett, you did too. And Sean, the offensive line. I don't think it matters who's going to be behind the offensive line if the offensive line is terrible. And I think that's the biggest downfall. And I think Lamar would do well in New York. I just don't think that with the subpar offensive line currently that's hindered Zach Wilson, it's still going to hinder Aaron Rodgers, and it's still going to hinder Lamar. I don't think it's really going to matter, which is why I'm a huge fan of not going after Aaron Rodgers and bolstering up the offensive line. I mean, 13th pick, 42 and 43 right off the rip. I mean, could use some defensive help as well as a second tier, but I would swap out and take another offensive lineman, guard, center, something in order to boost that offensive line in order to help whoever's behind it, because I think that's going to be the biggest downfall. And I also think that Zach Wilson, if they do keep him and don't get Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be on an extremely short leash. And if he's a leash. And if he is on a short leash, next who's up? Who's the next option? Schreeler?
Yeah, they got.
I think that's what I would put.
Strebler and Boyle right now, not looking good.
No, not at all. But I would. It's going to start with the offensive line, 100%. Yeah. So it's not really going to matter.
Well, Lamar would of the three that you talked about would help that situation the most because he can get away. And the thing is, he's tagged, but he's not exclusive. So somebody just has to make him an offer and force the Ravens to match it. And I haven't seen that out there. So it's not like, I don't think it's a matter of them making a trade. I just think it's a matter of New York has a lot of money.
In general. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the offer in general and then force the Ravens' hand. But I mean, Jake, am I wrong? Isn't he? He's tagged, but he's not exclusive, meaning any team can make Lamar an offer, and then it's up to the Ravens to match it or not. And if they don't want to match it, bye. He's now on the New York Jets. So
that's exactly right. Yeah, and who do you want to invest more money in? Do you want to invest it in Aaron Rodgers on maybe like a 2-year deal, but he's going to make 40 some odd million a year? Or are you going to take Lamar Jackson, who you get on a long-term deal? And yeah, obviously you got to pay him a little bit, but I'd rather pay him than Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Oh yeah.
I
agree.
I got to ask Brett something real quick. This is going off topic a little bit. Is Lamar going to even play? I mean, I think that the number right now is 34 million. Like because they tagged him this year, and if no one comes out with an offer, is he even going to want to play still? Because we saw last year he doesn't want to touch the field unless he gets a long-term deal. So I'm curious about that. Do you think is he going to come up with "I'm still injured," or is he just going to hold out until that deal's made? Or do you absolutely see a deal being done before the season starts with Lamar, as far as maybe Baltimore signs him, or is someone else going to come to the table and make a huge offer there?
Yeah, I think that Baltimore is going to come up with an offer for Lamar. I think he just has so much value for the franchise that I think it's just time for them to step up and just come up with a number that is feasible for both sides. Now, I know that we did talk about why the Jets aren't going after Lamar. The reason why they're not is because the Ravens used an exclusive rights deal for Lamar Jackson, which means that he can negotiate with other teams. The problem is that whatever team signs Lamar would have to give up a draft pick for him, and it's an original round draft pick, which is a first-round pick. Nobody wants to give up a first-round pick in this year's draft for Lamar Jackson. Now, he is a generational talent, but I think that everybody knows right now that the Ravens are going to sign him again. They just went after Odell Beckham Jr. to make Lamar happy. So I think it's just a matter of time that the Ravens do sign him. And I think that Lamar wants to come back. And I do think that if there isn't a deal that's in place, I think he will sign the franchise deal and play out the year. And then maybe, who knows, next year he could be a Jet. Now, I do like the situation that we talked about with Zach Wilson being the starting quarterback for the 17-game season. And I think that there's some really good prospects in the draft next year that if everything doesn't pan out with Zach Wilson this year, you can go after guys like Caleb Williams next year. He was a great player that is going to be a generational talent for whatever franchise he goes to. So if you guys have a struggling year, which I know it sucks, we went through the drought for 17 years. I know you guys are in somewhat of a drought situation, but, another year waiting for a guy that can be another Josh Allen and he could be the next Josh Allen type of player in the NFL. It would be great to see, you guys get a great quarterback in the draft in 2024 too. And somebody that can solidify the franchise for many years to come. Now, there is a couple of other players, too, that are going to be free agents next year. Lamar is number one, Ryan Tannehill, and also Kirk Cousins. So you can have a bridge quarterback for a couple of years while you blossom a rookie quarterback, too.
Good stuff, Brett. Good stuff. I think we haven't given – I'm going to move on from the Jets just for a little bit. And the reason we've been giving the Jets a lot of love is we have a representative. But I think we got to give a little time to the Patriots. I think we might be being a little disrespectful, which we love to do. But let's try to, put on a Patriot hat here, Jake. And let me just give you some names that they have brought over during free agency. Juju Smith-Schuster. I have a hard time saying his name all the time. They actually signed Mike Gesicki, which they've always been a big team as far as tight ends go, right? And I think they'll utilize him a lot more than the Dolphins did for sure. And they also brought in James Robinson, who I think, Robinson was playing for the Jaguars a couple of years ago, and he was a fantastic back. And then he was over on the Jets, and we already talked about that offensive line, but he's not going to be the starter, but he's a good backup to Stevenson. What's your thoughts? Let's talk a little bit about them. Why are we putting them in the dumpster when they have the best ever coach? Best coach of all time. I mean, hands down, you can't argue. I know some of us have said it was more Brady, but I look back to when he was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants and beat the Buffalo Bills in the first Super Bowl. And from that point on, it's been a thorn in our side. He's a great coach. But why are we disrespecting him so much, Jake?
I don't know. I think you look at what he did last year with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as co-offensive coordinators for Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. They still won 8 games, and they were actually in the playoff hunt even at the end of the year. I mean, if that Raiders game goes a different way and they end up winning that, they're 9-8 and they're in. So, and if say they beat us in the game where Nyheim Hines took 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, they're in. So honestly, I don't get the hate. I think they do have some young talent. It seems like they're just piecing together teams. I actually do like the Juju addition. I think that's brilliant. You still have Kendrick Bourne, who I think is a very capable guy, and Devontae Parker, who is a very nice receiver. Then you add Mike Gesicki. You still have Hunter Henry as well. I mean, those are really pretty solid offensive weapons, in my opinion. The offensive line needs a little bit of help. You still have David Andrews. They did take Cole Strange in the first round last year, which everyone was scratching their head at. But honestly, he played above expectations, so that was really nice to see. And then you look at their defense. I mean, they have two really, really good pass rushers, and both Josh Uche and our boy Matt Judon, who I will say seems to struggle when he plays against the Bills. For whatever reason, we actually do have his number, but he always kills it, against other teams, and usually during the regular season in general, puts up some really nice numbers. But they had two guys that had 10-plus sacks last year. That's very impressive. You love to see that. Now, I do believe Devin McCourty, he did retire officially, so He is no longer on the team. So not really sure what they're doing at the safety position. I know Kyle Duggar's still an absolute stud. I think he can really transition well. He's been kind of played all over the field. I know he's technically a strong safety, but he plays a little nickel too. But he's a hell of an athlete. They took him high in the draft for a reason a couple of years ago, and I really like that kid a lot. They have Adrian Phillips as well, who I think has developed into a pretty nice safety. So on the back end, you look at Devin McCourty leaving. Yeah, that's a big missing piece. He brings a lot of veteran leadership. We're still playing at a pretty high level too, even at his age. But I think they're actually going to be okay at the safety spot. So I don't know, man. I think the Patriots are always a dark horse. They're always a team that's going to be around and just that annoying little brother right now, which is wild to say that they're the annoying little brother, because for 20 years they just beat on all of us the entire year. For 20 straight seasons, basically, it was no matter what, we were New England's bitch. And now it's kind of starting, the tables have turned a little bit, which is kind of nice. So
kind of.
I still think, they have 8-win potential. I think that, if Mac has a pretty good year, especially with Bill O'Brien as the OC, they can maybe make a run this year. You never know. So don't write them off just yet.
Mike,
look at this guy. Look at this guy's name.
Talk to me about Bill O'Brien. Tell me a little bit about him, because I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah,
he's the guy that traded DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of chips and a soda.
Yes. As a GM, not great. As a coach, I think he did a lot of great things in Houston. I mean, he took the Texans to the playoffs for like 5 straight seasons. Didn't always have the greatest quarterback at times. Matt Schaub had a couple good years, but then they had a lot of bridge quarterbacks, a lot of no-name guys that were just kind of thrown into the mix. And they still managed a way to get there. They did have some really good skill guys, but I thought he did a pretty solid job in Houston. Obviously had quite a few winning seasons. Actually took him almost, I think he did, AFC Championship against New England the one year. But as an offensive coordinator, I think that's a really good fit for him. He was already in New England previous to his Texans stint. So that'll be a really nice help for Mac Jones. It'll be much better than Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who have zero experience and zero reason to be calling plays.
Yeah, and also Mac Jones spent a year with Bill O'Brien at Alabama too. So that's another addition that you have to the connection with New England as well. So Mac Jones has familiarity as he has an offensive coordinator that comes in a year with him at Alabama and then comes into the franchise. Kind of thinks that Bill O'Brien was giving him some tweaks during the season last year, which is something that he could do because he wasn't on a franchise. Now, like you said, he wasn't a great GM for the Houston Texans, but he was a great coach. He even beat the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs too, so that's kind of pisses me off. So I don't want to see him have success whatsoever, with the New England Patriots. So let's kick their ass this year. Let's get 2 against them and get Bill O'Brien out of New England. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, the refs won that playoff game with that stupid Cody Ford call and that the missed double zeros on the play clock for 3 seconds that they scored. They got a 3rd and 35 first down and they kicked the field goal and won. So, and then that touchdown, the start of the third quarter that got called back when the guy that came out of the stands and said, "Oh yeah, that wasn't a touchdown. You got to review that before you could even do something like that." And then they overturned it, and then that was the game really. I'll never forget that. That Cody Ford blindside block.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Took us out of field goal range.
Well, listen, it's been a fun show. Let's get into a little bit of the draft here, and let's start with our guest, Dom. Dom, let's just assume the Roger deal doesn't happen. Let's go this route. Let's play this out, right? And we already talked about you probably would draft a top offensive lineman in that first round. Skoronski, which is he's an offensive tackle, can play guard as well. But that would be just a generational talent for you guys to be on that offensive line. But let's say you go that route, take him in the first round. Who are you going to in the second round? What are you looking to fill in the second round with those 2 picks?
So it's funny because every quote unquote mock draft that I've seen, they put somebody on the defense as the next 42 and 43 picks, which 43 came from Cleveland, I believe, or is that 42? Sorry, 42 came from Cleveland. They have a linebacker and a defensive tackle signed up for as the mock for what they should take if they don't do Aaron Rodgers, but I think they should swap that and definitely take the center, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head because I didn't write it down like a dumbass. Yes, thank you. I think they should take him either with a 42 or 43rd, and then swap it with either Simpson or Cansey. I don't know if they necessarily need the safety right off the rip. I probably would go with a linebacker at the 43rd or 42nd. That's what my preference is, especially if they don't do the Aaron Rodgers trade. But like I said, I think Zach Wilson's going to be on a short leash anyway, so I would at least give him the opportunity and bolster that offensive line before, shooting him out of New York, personally.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, they get the offense line in the first one. I mean, I'm looking at your lineup right now, and you talked about a linebacker, which is a position I want the Bills to go after, and I want them to go after that. I'm not going to tell you the name. I don't want you getting some information over to the New York office and taking this guy.
After we get off, I'm going to text him and let him know you said that.
But you mentioned a good one. That's obviously Simpson's one of the ones that are higher ranked. But you do have Mosley, you do have Sherwood there, and again, your offense is not that bad. If you add to the line, you do have a left tackle problem, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, was Skoronski a left tackle or a right tackle in college?
So he's left, but the thing is, people are talking about maybe even kicking him inside to play guard. He did start 12 games at left tackle this year. Obviously, I think he has the athleticism to do it in the NFL. He's a really good offensive lineman. Northwestern has been breeding great tackles. You look at Slater, that the Chargers took. He's fantastic, man. He's one of the best tackles in the league. I know he's banged up last year, but just an absolute wagon that young man is. Peter Skoronski, very similar. Whatever they're doing in that weight room, that strength and conditioning coach, what a stud, man. I mean, He is already known. He's got the stash. He goes sleeveless on the sidelines. Guy's an absolute dog. I love him. But they're doing it right out there. And Peter Skoronski, I think he put up 30 reps for 225. Fantastic, man. Nice long arms doing that. Are you kidding me? What a stud. Also, Big Ten offensive lineman, you can never go wrong. I love the mentioning of Luke Whippler as well. Ohio State kid. Last time you guys took a center as an Ohio State guy, Nick Mangold. That turned out pretty damn well for you. So I would love to see that. I think that'd be a really good pick for you guys.
Yeah, they have a tackle, Mekhi Becton, who looks like he's going to be starting this year. Obviously,
Mekhi Becton,
Yeah, probably saying that wrong. But he was
a ton of weight loss for him, too. He was actually very overweight. He's been injured the last few years, too. But he's dropped quite a few pounds, and, he looks like he's in really good shape. So that's great to see.
Yeah, 6'7".
Yeah, I think I read it. He dropped like 20 or 22 or 25 pounds or something like that in this offseason.
Yep.
Yeah. This is the make or break year for him, though. He was a first round pick in 2020. He's missed 33 of 34 games with 2 knee injuries. So if they can get anything out of him at left tackle and pick up Skoronski, they're going to be in pretty good shape on that offensive line. So yeah, go ahead, sir.
There's a center that the Jets are looking at right now, in Ben Jones, who was released from the Tennessee Titans. He's somebody that can come in and solidify your center position for many years to come. So if you guys bring him in, he's going to be on a short deal where it's not going to cost you guys a lot of money, but you could sign him for another deal. If you sign him to a 2-year, $8 million contract now, and then you sign him later on for a couple more years, I think he's only like 28 or 29. So he could be the center for you guys and solidify the interior of the offensive line for many years to come.
Yeah, he's really good. I like Ben Jones a lot. Honestly, if Mitch Morse does indeed retire, or if there's any rumor of him retiring, that was a guy that I would hope the Bills would take a look at just for a second because, man, he's really good. I like him a lot.
Nice. So let's switch gears over to the Dolphins. Now the Dolphins have a 51st in the second round. They have a third rounder, and they have a 6th and a 7th. They gave up a lot of draft capital with that trade for Tyreek Hill. But I want to go to you, Sean, because again, you're our Dolphin representative today, our fill-in. And with that second pick, I'm looking at their lineup. I mean, it's a fantastic lineup. I think they could always use offensive line help, maybe a guard. But let me throw it to you. Who would you take if you're the GM for the Dolphins or a fan and you're looking to, what are we going to focus on in that 51st pick in the second round?
It's got to be offensive tackle or guard because you got to remember also, I keep forgetting his Teron Armstead. He's always banged up. He's getting old. Not only do you have to have someone to complement him, but you got to think about his replacement as well because he's good for 12 games a year, basically 11, 12 games a year. But that's really Miami's hole is just like ours, offensive line. And right tackle isn't solidified, left guard isn't solidified, and they don't have a first-round pick. So at 51, it's really hard to say with how the mocks go because one time Darnell Wright gets picked 19th, the next time he gets picked 80th. So it's really hard to tell. But if they could get a guy like Darnell Wright at 51, then that would you got Armstead, Wright, and then if they can get another guard in there, because I know Robert Hunt is a pretty good guard, and they're Connor Williams at center they're fine with. Or they can even draft a center eventually and then put Connor Williams back at guard. But because I know he's had some trouble with shotgun snaps. But definitely got to get, I would say, tackle, just like us. They got to go tackle because, again, they don't have a first-round pick. And by the end of the second round, if they wait to get a tackle, they might not have a lot of options. So if I'm the Dolphins GM, I'm picking right tackle, just like if I was the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, great idea. I mean, we've done a lot of mocks, and there is a pretty steep drop-off from the top tackles when you go down to 51. So, but there's some gems. We found some good players that would be there. So I like that pick. Looking at you nailed it, I think. Looking at their roster right now, that to me, that's where I would start as well.
Yeah.
Brett, you agree?
I also think a tight end is something that they need too. So they lost Mike Gesicki. If he was available, I don't think he will be. But Darnell Washington from Georgia, if he was available at the 51 spot, I could see the Dolphins going after him. He has so much height, and he can high point the ball, especially in the red zone for them. And he would be a great weapon for Tua, somebody that's a security blanket. But the thing is, when he was with the Georgia Bulldogs, he wasn't used enough. He was kind of like Dawson Knox, where he wasn't utilized in college, but I think he has some promise, and I think he can come into the NFL and really show teams the same type of situation that Dawson Knox was in, where the first few years he wasn't as good, but he blossomed into a great tight end. So I think that Darnell Washington, if he was available, he would be somebody I would look at picking.
What I will say, though, about tight end with the Dolphins is that's the reason why Mike Gesicki's not still with them. They don't utilize the tight end as an offensive weapon. They use him as more of a blocker. So right. I don't think they would I totally get it because you would think they should use a tight end because you got guys like Hill and Waddle, and then you can use a tight end that, high point the ball or in the end zone, get key first downs, things like that. But because they use those speedsters to do all that, the way they do the motion guys all the time, and they like to use their tight ends for blocking. Right. That's why Gesicki was always frustrated, and even I wondered, this guy's like 6'8", he's an athletic specimen. Why not get him the ball more? And then he goes up to Dawson Knox. I'm glad you got paid, like things like that, because he wasn't utilized how even Brian Flores utilized him. But now with McDaniel's offense, they like to do things with evolving tight ends, blocking, spread, motion, every play, get the speed guys the ball. And I think if you had a guy, like him who should get the ball more, he might find himself in the same situation where getting frustrated, not getting the ball that much. And not because he's not good, because I think Gesicki's going to have a phenomenal if you're a fantasy owner, you got to get Gesicki as soon as you're available to. Not like first pick, but as soon as the tight ends to go, you got to start getting him. Like, it's going to be a hot take, but after Kelsey and Kittle, I think Gesicki should be the third one picked because he's going to be.
What about Mark Andrews?
Gesicki's going to be so utilized this year. It's going to shock the world. Well, not
problem is you have two though. You got Hunter Henry and him, so it's like they did that. They tried that with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. I don't know. I will say though, Mike Gesicki is a different animal. I think his height gives him a lot more. Jonnu Smith's like 6'2". He's more of an H-back,
right.
Which Mike Gesicki, he's a touchdown guy.
The reason I like Darnell Washington going to the Dolphins is, number one, at the scouting combine of all the tight ends that I watched, there was nobody that could hit the sleds as hard and move the sleds as much as Darnell Washington did. So he's a blocking tight end, number one. He can blossom into being a red zone target for Tua as the year comes on. But he can set the outside in the run game, which is something that they need. Their right tackle last year struggled towards the end of the season. So if you bring in a guy like Darnell Washington where he can solidify that edge and he can get out for passes too, I think it's a double dimension that they need, and somebody that adds height and where you can throw fades in the end zone too.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Brett, and I'm just thinking back to a show we did not that long ago where I think Miss Fins and some other folks from the Dolphins joined our show, and I had mentioned that one of their big losses was Gesicki, and they didn't seem to be concerned about that at all. So I have to side with Sean on this one a little bit, that they go for that offensive line because they just don't utilize it. It's just not something they do. And whether or not they did get a star like Washington, like you're talking about, I think he'd go underutilized, just like we have our tight end getting underutilized all the time. So I have to side with Sean a little bit on that, but I can see why you're pushing for the tight end. Absolutely.
If they had a first round pick and they could get tackle in the first round and maybe a tight end in the second, it might be different, but they're so strapped for draft picks. I don't see them, especially because Greer's on the, if he screws this up this year, he's probably going to be done. And I think he doesn't want to take any chances. So he's going to do the best he can to get the best offensive line with what he's got. And then we'll see. But I hope they ignore the offensive line because
me too.
That'd be the weak spot. And just like we do, we always ignore it. So then that might put the Jets over both of us, because if you can't block the defensive line, then it's hard to beat them. So can't ignore the offensive line if we want to compete.
Chris Greer, if you're watching the show, when you are selecting your second round pick, please select Michael Turk. He is a punter, and he is going to be the best punter out there in the league. I will promise you that. So select him so that we can get the ball back to our guys. You can get the ball back to Zach Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. We can get the ball back to Josh Allen, and we can take the ball down the field. So it'll make me happy. Everybody happy on this panel.
Hey, so we're going to finish this up by talking about the Patriots. We didn't get into the Bills draft choices because we've been talking about it. If you've watched our show, and if you haven't, go back and watch our shows. We've been beating a dead horse, as Jake likes to say, about who we think. There's some differences of opinion amongst the panel here, but not too much. I'll sum it up. We're looking offensive line, tackle, preferably, if we can, early on, linebacker. I'm kind of reverse. I want a linebacker first, offense, but we're very similar, as all about getting Josh Allen some more support. So we're not going to talk about the Bills side of things. And by the way, if you're new to our channels, please like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. Get on over to all the channels. We got the Go Bills podcast, Red, White, and Bills, Nickel City Mafia. By the way, in the description of this video is an amazing giveaway. I'm not going to go into that as well. Just watch the video down there. If you want a Bills jersey, which we're going to give away live on the NFL Draft Thursday, assuming the Bills stay in the first round. If they fall to the second because they want to trade back, we'll announce it the next day. But if you want to get into that, all the details are down below. We really appreciate you if you were to go give it a look. And why not? Why wouldn't you? Such an easy ask. So get on over there, watch the video, subscribe to all our channels, and continue to help us grow. And we're also, again, I'm going to say this once again, we're taking applications for a Patriot representative, for a Miami Dolphin representative. And I know, Dom, we only signed the contract for one show, but hopefully we can talk about that a little bit more, and we can get you to be a permanent member of the show. Yes. If not, I understand. He does ask a lot of money. So we'll see how that works out. So far you've been bringing it.
Lock him up. Lock him in.
Let's get
you gotta get him some chicken wings.
Yeah, for sure.
I do need some good chicken wings. Let me tell you.
I'll invite you over the house. My wife makes the best wings.
Count me in.
All right. So let's talk about the Patriots. They have the 14th overall pick in the first. They have a 46th pick in the second. They have a 76th overall in the third. They have a 4th. They have a 6th. And they have a 7th. So let me throw it to you, Jake, just to start. If you're the New England Patriots, what do you need to improve upon to get this team past that? I mean, we're all predicting them to be that 4th ranked team in the AFC East. A little disrespectful, I think. But what's going to move them up, in your opinion? What are they going to go after? What do they have to improve?
Well, I think, honestly, and I've seen it in a lot of mocks, that they're going to trade back just as Bill Belichick always does. They're going to move back several picks, and they're going to land the guy that they loved at the Senior Bowl, a guy that Bill Belichick coached up a ton at the Senior Bowl. And it's unfortunate because this is probably a guy that I'd like the Bills to maybe target. DeJuan Jones, I've seen him mocked to New England in several mock drafts, and it just sounds like a good fit. When you look at where they're at, with their tackle position, that right tackle, it always seems to be an issue for them. The left and right tackle, both of them, really. I mean, they still have Trent Brown, who is a behemoth of a human being, but why not add that size to the right side as well? I know they picked up Riley Reef, but man, I mean, DeJuan Jones, that would be a really nice fit there in New England. You're adding extra offensive linemen. It's such a Bill Belichick type of pick. Yeah. And again, he's going to trade back. He's going to acquire more draft capital, and he's going to take this behemoth of a human being. And they're going to have the 2 biggest tackles in the NFL.
Unless we take him. We've been mocking him first round for what? 5 of our 10 mocks, 50%. And so that will be interesting. But you're right. Look, they're a run-first team, right? They love to run the ball. They have a great running back. They're the skills player around Mac Jones is improving. They always play good defense. If they were to get a person like DeJuan Jones, which I would love him on the Bills, by the way. I mean, what a game changer for them. Sean, you agree? What do you think?
I think they should have stayed put because they're at 14.
Yeah, 14,
they might be able to get Skoronski, and if not, they can get that kid from Ohio State, Jackson
Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Like
I would stay put, and because their offensive line is always okay. It's always decent. They were pretty injured last year, but I would just stay put, sit, and then if they're both gone, then maybe trade back. But I think they'd be fine to stay put, and I don't think it's hate that they're going to be the number 4 for everybody, but I think it's mainly just where they're at right now compared to where the other 3 are at. We're all just in a better position. Sure, they might beat us once, or the Jets once, or all of us once, but when it comes down to it, they still got to play the AFC West, they got to play the NFC East, they got to play the 3rd place teams of every division, which we have a tough schedule. So, they're all piecing it together. They might win 9 games, 8 games, but I don't think it's fun to hate them, but I think they're just not where everyone else is right now, and it's beautiful to see, of course, but in my opinion, I would just say stay put, and then if those 2 guys are there, and there's probably a couple other people that I could put in that 14 spot, but it's a good point too, Jake. If neither of them are there, you could trade back, get more picks. And if DeJuan Jones is still there, and even if he's not there, you got Anton Harrison, you got Darnell Wright, all these people that could be there as well. So for them, I would just stay put and see what happens. And then, because they're in a good 14's a good pick. And that's a really good, you can get a really top tier talent. And I mean, the Jets had 3 picks last year in the first round and they all hit. So you have a great opportunity there. But again, nothing wrong with trading back, getting a couple more picks. But I mean, if they get Jackson from Ohio State, then you got Juju, Kendrick Bourne, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry, and Mondre Stevenson. It could be a pretty good offense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I love that, Sean. I mean, looking at the roster right now, they could use some help at cornerback for sure. And, if they were able to get one of those top receivers, all of a sudden now you got 2 great tight ends on this team. You add another big play receiver. They got a great running game. You set up the pass with the run. Man, dangerous. And I'll say this, and I mean it, they have the best coach. They have the best coach to ever coach in this league ever. So I'll stick to that. I'll give him his credit. And he seems to make things happen. I don't know. He's always been able to make things happen. How many times did you think the Patriots were like, man, they don't have really many splash players other than Tom Brady? They'd bring in receiver. They'd let people go. You're like, my God, why would they let that guy go? Yet they still churned out the wins. Incredible. So he'll make something happen, I'm sure. He might surprise us again. Again, they, like you said, Jake, they almost made the playoffs last year. Nobody was giving them a chance. They beat us, or they win that game before us. I think you were saying the Raiders. They win that game.
That was,
and that bizarre turn of events where Jacoby Myers threw a backwards pass and Chandler Jones scooped it and scored against his former team. Wild. Yeah. So good stuff, guys. That's about it. Dom, I'm going to throw it to you for any final thoughts. Thank you for being on the show today. It was a lot of fun to have you. And I love all the stuff that you brought. So any closing thoughts from you, sir?
I do have a question. If you were on the Dolphins, would you start Mike White over Tua? Because I think Tua is literally one hit away from being completely done. And with what Mike White did for the Jets in Zach Wilson's absence, I think he could possibly be the better option. But then once again, you're talking about an offensive line help as well. But if they get the offensive line help, I think Tua will be fine. But I wouldn't count on him.
He almost retired. He actually did come out and say this not too long ago. He said he almost contemplating retiring from pro football just because, his health. He, like you said, Dom. He's one hit away here. Potentially ending his entire career. So, and really suffering some serious effects in the long run. So, I don't know I think the fan base would lose their minds if you're starting Mike White. But Mike White's a very capable quarterback. I don't think a lot of people give that kid enough credit. He was an absolute warrior against us. He was taking shot for shot. He actually went right to the hospital right after our game against them. So that dude had 3
broken ribs, right?
Yeah. As gutsy and gritty as it gets. Yeah, he looks like the creative player default guy on Madden. But gosh, he can sling it. He's got a lot of talent, and I really like the kid a lot. And the Dolphins did very well in picking him up because it is more than likely that Tua is probably going to get injured again. You hate to wish for an injury, but it's just, basing off what the pattern's been, it seems like every year there's something going on there. So it's a hell of a safe blanket. I'm sure you're very upset that you guys lost him, but it's an interesting thought for sure.
Yeah, let's have Sean answer this because I think, Sean, you know those Dolphin fans the best, and I think they feel Tua's as good, if not better, than Josh Allen whenever I see their shows. But what do you think? You could not. For me, I would never. I would ride Tua as long as he wants to play, as long as he can stay healthy. But what's your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, when you look at it, career for career, obviously Tua's shined more than Mike White. But the reason why they got Mike White is because they think that once Tua goes down, or if he does, in the event he does, Mike White can go in there and win his football games. Is he, we can't say he's really better than Tua right now. Not that Tua's, again, I don't think Tua's a top 5 quarterback or anything, but he's got the edge on Mike White as of right now, obviously. But it was a great pickup because they saw how gritty he was. It was borderline stupid because he could have severely hurt himself if he was playing with broken ribs and they punctured his lung or something. So it was pretty stupid, but ballsy and gutsy, so I respect it. But they saw that, they see his frame, his arm. He's very savvy and smart. So it's like you said, hell of a safety blanket. But I think it was for that reason they're wary of Tua. Definitely nerve wracking with what his head injuries were, and if he suffers another one, it could be done. Could be it for him. So great pickup. I don't think they definitely won't start off with him because Tua got the tag and he's going to get like $25 million or something. So they wouldn't put Mike White over him, but I think they're ready. Mike White's going to be groomed to, once Tua goes down, he's going to be the guy that we can trust. And again, you hope if you're a Dolphins fan, you hope that Tua stays. I mean, if you're a football fan, you hope Tua doesn't suffer a head injury like that again. But he suffered more than head injuries in his career. He got the hip problem in college. He broke his ribs against us. You name it, he's probably injured it. So it's a scary thing when you're built to win and your quarterback can go down any game.
Yeah,
I posed that question because obviously I'm still butthurt that the Jets released White, but that's a different issue. Because then we wouldn't even be having the conversation of picking up Rodgers and keeping the offensive line picks and everything else from the draft. But
yeah, that would have been awesome.
I would start White over Zach Wilson though.
100%.
Yeah, that true that. So talking about Tua, I've never seen a more serious concussion happen than we saw last season. I mean, literally his head slammed against the turf, I think it was, and his hands just froze, right? And that's some serious stuff. He's already had, I don't know how many concussions he's had. Last year alone, we know he had one in the Bills game. He should have never came back in that first game. Should have never. Like, Jake was at that game in Miami. We all saw it. He went down. He hit his head. They were saying that it was something else, right? It was like his leg or something, his ankle. BS on that one. He should have never come back. The following week, I think he takes that big hit, and then he's out, right? The poor kid, man, he's had some serious concussions, and we know how concussions work. As you get more and more of them, they become more frequent, and it's a very serious thing.
It was a Thursday game too, Mike.
Yeah.
Monday to Thursday.
Makes it even worse, honestly.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. So I want to see him. I want to see the best competing against the Bills. I really do. I don't want us to have to win because, Tua didn't play for them. But I love the fact that they picked up White because I liked the kid last year. I really did.
Great pickup.
So good stuff. Sorry you lost him, Dom. You really don't have a good backup right now. So you got to do something on that Jet team. So who knows? There's going to be teams still. I don't know. Can they make? They
could get Stetson Bennett.
Yeah. They can still make some moves.
The Stetson Bennett thing is hilarious. I know he was a winner in college. I don't know, man. I don't see it in the NFL. I think it's another Jake Fromm pick, if anything. It's not going to be. And you can cut this and quote it right now. I love Stetson Bennett and what he did at Georgia, but to give him an A on the PFF mock draft simulator, taking him in the 7th round, I don't understand it. I really don't.
I mean, he should have been good in college. He was like 28 years old playing with 17-year-olds.
Right.
So it should have been good. But man, if we pick him, I swear I won't be doing shows for like 2 months. I'm gonna have a bottle of vodka in my freezer. I don't drink anything. I'm gonna chug the whole thing.
There you
and
go.
Pass out for like a week if we pick him.
Brett,
whether it's 6th round, 7th round, 10th round, I don't care.
Brett, I'm going to let you close this out for us, but I just want to mention that we are going live on draft night this Thursday. When we go live, it's still up for debate. I'm actually contemplating taking Thursday and Friday off. And if I do that, I might go live at the beginning of the draft and have some people come in and out of the show, maybe take turns. And I won't say the other word because I left a letter out last time, and is it shifts. I don't want to say the other word, but we're going to go live, and it should be a lot of fun. And we were talking about going live at 15, but the only bad thing would be if we go live to start and they move back to the second round. How much would that suck?
It'll still be fun though. We get to
It's still,
see the
I
picks
agree.
happen and talk about them. Like,
I-
they picked.
We get to
I
talk about
agree.
the prospects too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not about it is about the Buffalo Bills, but it's also about talking about the prospects that are in there too. So,
Yeah.
like this show was, it's not just about talking about the Buffalo Bills. We talked about the whole entire division. So now we get to talk about guys' journeys that get to go into the NFL, and I hope and wish the best for every single one of them.
Yeah. Well, that's so join us Thursday. We'll also be giving away hopefully the jersey that night or the following night in day 2 if the Bills do move back to round 2. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Thursday. Potentially, I can say that. I almost stuttered to say that word. By the way, I saw some folks think they caught us saying potentially. We stopped that last week. We are free to use the word potentially, potential, any form
I'm
of
still
it.
going to try not to say it.
I know, right? Now it's like we're all on alert anytime we hear that word. I do want to thank everyone that's been in the channel. I saw some new folks out there. Let's see here. Louis Amador. I haven't seen Luis before. Josh Allen Black's work ethic. What the?
That's an insane handle.
Oh my goodness.
Such a hater.
Who else was out there? Morning Mayan, Linda West. I hope I say your name right. I've seen you out in our shows. Thank you so much for coming out there. Big Al was out there early. Mr. N1. Thank you all for joining us. This makes it so much more fun when we got the interaction from you. So, Brett, final words. Close it out for us. Throwing it to you.
Yeah, I want to actually close it out with a debate that we can start. And I think that this is something that, just like Dominic said earlier, where Tua and Mike White we were talking about. I want to pose the question to the panel and ask, do you think if Tua was to play in the playoff game last year, that the Buffalo Bills would have lost that game to them?
I already said that earlier in the show,
Yes.
Brett. 100%.
I don't think that. I think you game plan differently for each guy. So if they might have been a little bit, we don't know what to expect from this kid. We're going to play this. We're going to do that. But if it was Tua, they know exactly how to play Tua. They know exactly what he's good at, what he's not good at. And then it might have felt different for the ambiance of the game. When you got a 7th round rookie going into the game and his first, it was a second career start, you don't expect much. And we basically dominated it for most of the game, and then it got close. So they might have got lax. McDermott isn't the greatest coach in the world, so maybe he got lax too. And it was really close, so I understand why it seems like if he played, it was different. But we gifted him 10 points that Josh fumbled at the 5, and they scored a touchdown, and another guy fumbled, and they got a field goal off of it. So, I mean, and truth be told, Skyler was 12 for 55 or something in the game. So they didn't really do. He was like a 30% complete. They didn't really do well. It was just they capitalized off of
field position,
playing terrible. We
and mistakes.
Won terribly. Yep. They played better than we did. We just won the game. So I think again, if Tua played, could have happened. It's always could have.
It opens up the quick game, and I think it opens up different, options and route trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the biggest difference. He can make different throws. He's a little more accurate. Ball placements there, timing routes are there. So there is that. But no, that's a very good point, Sean, because you do game plan differently. We already had a handle on how Tua was going to play. Played him twice already in the year. So, no, that's definitely a very good point. Just because, it's 35-32 Bills, against Skylar Thompson, it doesn't mean it's going to be 38-35 Dolphins if Tua's in.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, you said gifts. Those are earned gifts. Those are defensive plays. And, you can say that we made mistakes, but you make mistakes when you're going against a good defense. So you got to give them some credit there. I agree. I can see what you're saying, Sean, but I do believe they would have beaten us. I do think so if they had any resemblance of a quarterback who had experience, especially on that last drive.
And
but
how much
good stuff?
How much more energy would they have had? As a team, how much more energy would you have having Tua out there as your starting quarterback? Somebody that even make an impact. That's one thing that I think factors in. And I felt like Buffalo just played in the playoffs completely. I just felt like they played very lackadaisical.
Yeah.
That was what I was. That's how they played for 85% of the season, unfortunately, and it molded into the playoffs, and that's what I was worried about. It was nice to go 13-3, but I knew deep down they're not ready. They're too many things, too much adversity happened. They were able to win games, but something didn't feel right after like the Packers game. Everything started to feel different, and hopefully it's different next year.
All right, everyone. This was a lot of fun. Our first ever AFC East Summit. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thanks again, Dom, for representing the Jets. I hope we get you out next time as well and get your thoughts after the draft and see if anything's changed with you. And hopefully by then we'll have also a Patriot and a Dolphin representative.
Count me in.
Awesome. Thank you,
Love it,
Dom. Love it. All right, everyone. Have a great one. We'll see you Thursday. I can't wait. I'm counting the days, the minutes, the hours. Let's go. Thursday draft. See you then. Everyone, have a great week. Bye.
Hey, I got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Go Jets.
Go Bills.
Oh, God. Go Bills. Bye.
See you guys.
See you, man.